Well, it looks like we have everyone here, and so far for our webinar today. Uh, for those that are attending today, thank you for joining us. This is Informed Decisions. My name is Orlando Ferrer, and I have Chris Gordy on the other line as well, who's going to be giving our presentation today on IBMI accounts payable and processing that will retrieve documents. We are Informed Decisions. We've been around since 1994. We primarily are an IBMI document management company that's been around for over 20 years, and we also deal with Windows platform as well in Capture. Here today Chris Gordy is going to be doing the main presentation, where he's been for many years now a document capture expert in this field, and he's going to be giving today's presentation. All right, so without any further delay, I'm going to pass you on to Chris, and he's going to give his presentation. After the presentation, we'll do Q&A, and we'll take all questions at that point. All right, Chris, take it away.
Thank you, Orlando. Let me start by introducing some of the technologies we're going to be working with here today. We're going to start by processing documents through an advanced capture and OCR solution, which is what you see on the screen right here, called site capture. This tool runs on Windows-based platforms and allows us to retrieve documents from various different sources, scanners, email attachments, network scanning devices, faxes, etc. So we can bring in from all those different sources, process them through, and then we're going to be uploading those documents, those invoices in this case, that we're processing into a IBMI native web and browser application called IView. And this is going to give us the ability to search on the metadata values we're extracting, such as invoice number, date, total, PO number, etc. Those values, we're going to be able to search on them and retrieve those documents and view them through the web browser. So you can access it through, pretty much any different platform there. Just sort of a FYI for everybody on the call today, in follow-up presentations, we'll be able to dig deeper into more advanced technologies, such as line item extraction, table extraction, and potentially the ability to process multiple different form types within a simple and easy-to-use workflow. So with that in mind, let's get started. So what you're looking at on the screen is the site capture tool. Again, this works on the Windows platform. Pretty much any modern version of Windows, Vista, Windows 7, 8, or even 10 now. It also runs on servers. So while I'm going to be showing a fully interactive workflow where you can see all the pieces and processes happening on the screen, this can be configured as an automated server-side application where invoices get scanned in to a network folder, they come in through email attachments, they come into the fax server, etc., and then get processed automatically on the server. Now, if you have it configured for full automatic processing and there's no exceptions, everything's good to go, all the data is extracted, the images can show up automatically ready to be searched inside of IView or whatever document repository system you're using. Now, the process I'm going to show is the manual one so you can actually see what's going on. We're going to start by opening the Capture Import module. This is where you begin the scanning process. So I'll select a workflow I've kind of configured. It's a pretty basic one that is for scanning, invoices in. Here on the left, I have our images, our files that I'm going to import. This is a cross-section, a good selection of different invoices, anything from scans directly from the scanner, email attachments, a couple of these came in through faxes. It's a pretty good variety of different shades, different formats, different sources. I've got a total of 16 files selected in this first batch that I'm going to process. So when I bring these in, one of the first things you're going to notice is that the system automatically separates these out into individual pages. So while these 16 files are selected, I end up with 25 total pages. This means that some of those invoices may have been multi-page invoices, or some of those scans or stacks or emails that came in maybe contains multiple invoices within a single file. So the system separates all those out. Then we're going to move to the classification step where it's going to try and determine exactly what each invoice is, what the vendor is, and then which ones belong together, if it's a multi-page invoice or if there's supporting documents, etc. So moving on to the next workflow step here at classification, we're going to be able to watch the system as it goes through and processes each of those documents. So this step right here is running OCR technology and pattern matching against those images to determine which vendor they are, define where it's going to extract the data from for this workflow. And we're doing the invoices, we're just doing a standard, invoice number, date, total, and I think we're also going to try and find the PO number, but it's not, there's not always a PO number available on every invoice, so it may miss it a couple times if it's not there. So this screen is showing you the classification results. You'll see that the form ID here is the vendor. So in this case, it's Mail Inc., and we have Mail Inc. was classified correctly. There's no flag here, so we're good to go with this one. The same with the following. However, you'll see this big yellow exclamation. This document failed to classify, meaning the system doesn't recognize what it is. So at this point, we can train the system through this user interface very easily to recognize this document from this day forward. So when we receive more invoices from this vendor, it's going to know what it is, it's going to know where to find the data, and we're not going to have to process it anymore. If we get to that point where this entire batch that gets scanned, everything is recognized, we wouldn't even see this screen. If you're doing a manual process, it would just go all the way through, go through the extraction, and potentially have the images available for viewing inside of your IView web browser or whatever it is that wherever it is you're placing these images. So in order to do that classification, we're just going to click on this little gear here on the left, and we have to start giving the system a little bit of information. So for here, this is going to be a Tidewater scale invoice. You can call it kind of whatever it is that you wish. We're going to select the record type as invoice. Now, the reason you select the record type here, it is possible, and this is one of the things we'll go into in later sessions, other webinars, but basically you have the ability to process different types of documents. So you could potentially have purchase orders in here. And then based on the type of record that it is selected or recognized as, you're going to have different index fields, different processing, different workflow rules. Things happen differently. So, right now we're just doing invoices in this demonstration, so that's all we have to pick. Next step is how to classify this document. Basically, the way classification works is you start telling the system what to look for. So, for example, let's say Tidewater scale and equipment right here. This is a pretty unique string. It's very unlikely that you're going to have invoices from other companies that include the same information, so we can simply select that there. The system then generates a pattern recognition string. We don't want to get into too many details on this, but it's a regular expression. It's just a pattern matching tool that lets you recognize, text on the image and classify it. This part is a good training section. Basically, you need to pick information that's unique to the image, something that is not going to appear elsewhere. So very unique titles or company names is a good one. We also like to do phone numbers and fax numbers. Those are pretty unique. It's pretty rare for you to have two companies share the same phone number. It's potential to have websites and email addresses as well. Really, you just start clicking on any unique information that's only going to show up on this vendor's invoice. You can do as many as you want. There is some more advanced terms and technology we can get into on later sessions, but just kind of at a high level, right now, each of these you add, if it finds any one of these, it's going to classify it as this vendor. You also have the ability to set it so that if it finds all of these, it'll classify it, meaning if any one of these fails, it won't classify it as this vendor. Right now, we picked some pretty unique information, the name of the company, their phone number, fax number. So if it finds any of those things, we're going to assume that it's a Tidewater invoice. The next step is to define where to extract the data from. So we go over to the Zone Definition tab here, and you'll see that we've got 4 different zones. We've got an invoice number zone, we've got an invoice date, a PO number, and an invoice total. These are the metadata or information that we want to extract from the invoice. So starting with invoice number, you'll see that it actually already found out where it should be and placed the box here for us. So if we double click on this, we'll get a little bit more information here. You'll see if I zoom in, make it a little easier for everybody to see, you'll see that it recognized invoice pound here. That's where the invoice number likely is. And then below it is where the invoice number actually resides. And in that case, it's put a pink box or red box around here for you. So this one's good to go. We don't have to actually do anything. Date looks like about the same. So if we double click on this, we'll see that it found date here and it found it below it. So we're good to go. If we go over to PO number, again, it found PO NO here, and unfortunately on this particular invoice, there is no actual PO number. It would be below it if it was there, so we'll leave the box, but it's not actually going to be able to extract anything. And then over here on total, we've got total highlighted, it found total, and to the right of it, it found the information, so we'll put a box there to extract that, and we're also good to go. So at this point, we're done. We can simply hit save. And it switches that X flag from an exclamation to a green check, meaning we've classified that as a Tidewater invoice. We'll go down to the next one that failed to classify. This is a VRS here. We're going to do the same process again real quick. Click the gear. This is a VRS Inc. invoice. Again, record type is invoice here. And then we're going to tell how to classify. For this case, phone numbers, like I said, a pretty good one to use. We can also use this VRS Inc. here. I think that's going to be good for this one. If you wanted to do the address, you could do that, though it's a little bit less safe because it is potentially possible to have two people with the same PO box in different cities or something like that, or different counties. So I'm just going to do the company's name and then their phone number. Then we're going to jump over to the zone profile here. Now you notice that things are a little bit off. They're kind of close, but we need to do some adjustments here. So this one is the invoice number, so we'll place this box over invoice number. Let's do that. My mouse is going to work with me here. Double click and you'll see that it found the invoice number, but the box is a little bit off. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag this down and place that over where the number appears. So that's good to go. Save this. We don't necessarily have to readjust date here. Like you'll notice that if I move it way over here like this, it'll still find it. It still finds it in the bottom corner there. The reason these zones, these green zones you see here are so large is because when you're scanning documents in, it's possible for it to shift a little bit. The date can go to the left or the right a little bit. It may be bigger or smaller. So this gives you some leeway there for how that works. You can even increase the size of these boxes as large as you want. It's kind of a game of whether or not the smaller it is, the more exact your information is going to be. The larger it is, the better chance you have to catch changes in the form potentially. So we'll double click on date here and reposition the actual extraction zone a little bit to grab the date there. We'll save this. Then we're going to go to PO. We'll move this over to PO here. Again, it found PO, and we're going to move this down to where it finds the actual PO. In this case, it says Jessica. So total is quite a bit off, so we'll move this down. We could grab total or we could grab balance due. Because there could be adjustments and credits, and we're really interested in the balance due, we'll move this here. So we'll recognize balance due, and we move this over here. Again, we can resize these zones in case there's a large number in this place, so we can get the whole thing in there. Save this. And we're good to go. So that one's good there. We'll go down to the next one. Now this is another Tidewater. If you recall, we already did a Tidewater here, so I'm going to skip this one because we already classified it, so there's no reason for me to redo it again. We'll just come down here to Whitecap. I'll do this one more real fast. So for Whitecap, we'll call this Whitecap invoice. Go down, this is an invoice. How we're going to recognize this one. So right here we have the company name, so we'll look for that. We also have phone number probably somewhere. I'm trying to find it here. So here is a phone number for the branch. Probably good with that, so I'll leave that. We could find some other information in here, but I think for demo purposes you probably have have a pretty good idea. So then we're going to go over to zone profile. Now this one's quite a bit different layout, so it took a little bit more adjustments to find it. So we'll do order number here. Again, it doesn't matter what order you do these in. You can readjust the zones however you want. Now, when I double-clicked on this, it pops up and says it couldn't find the PO number is what this zone's looking for over here. And that's because in this case, the words and the description of how it locates it is so different than what we had defined in the general template. It just couldn't recognize it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here, and instead of using the generic purchase order number pattern recognition, we're going to add our own new one. So in this case, what we do is we can see here that it's order number is what it's looking for. So we come in here, we hit this button to do the little point and click recognition, and you'll see that I can mouse over text on here of what I want it to look for. So in this case, it's looking for order number. We can do this multiple times. So, and I'll get into more detail this later, but basically if you process multiple forms from the same vendor and they have different departments or they have different locations that have different form layouts, so they reference things differently, you can start adding multiple different expressions here. You can start clicking on different words so that the system can recognize it no matter how they print the form. If it comes in one way, it'll recognize it that way. If it comes in a different way, it'll recognize that as well. So down here, we hit the locate button. It found it for us. It drew the zone for us. We just come in here and resize this, put it up where the information resides. You know, it can be nice and big so that if the number changes in size, we can grab it. Save this. We're going to do, this is invoice date, so we're going to move this over date here and double click again. It found it, no problem. And let me zoom in just so you can kind of see what's going on here. Found it, no problem, and so again, we just resize this, move this over, grab the date there, hit save. And then we're going to grab, so this is invoice number here, so we'll move this up over to invoice number, double click, found it again, we'll zoom in. If you have a lower resolution or bigger monitor, or you're not running it as small as I am, you have to do a little bit less zooming. In this case, you will move it over the invoice number, like that, and save it. We have one more to do, invoice total here, double click, found it. We'll move this over to where the total appears, resize this a little bit to grab it correctly, and save. We have now reclassified 3 of the documents, and you may recall this one is the same one. So what we're going to do is just skip that one. Everything is classified, and this one's going to be classified here in a minute. So we save our classification. The system asks, would you like to recheck everything real quick? You say yes. It's going to go through. You'll notice that it switches to a new screen because everything classified correctly. If anything failed again or got missed, it would pop back up and show you those. This step here is automatically going in and extracting all of the data, the invoice number, the date, the total, the PO number. Anything you're looking for is being extracted at this point. Once that extraction finished, for demonstration purposes, I put in a quality assurance view in the data view mode, which is basically like a spreadsheet view. And this is going to show you all the information that was extracted. It's going to show you the vendor's name down here. It's going to show you the invoice number. And if you click on this, I've set the system to zoom in and highlight where it found it. It's going to show dates. So you'll see, you know, here it found invoice date here, and it highlights where it found the date. You'll also notice that I've configured the system to format this a specific way so that it comes in as a very generic date format rather than each vendor, you know, having it listed differently. This is going to make it much easier to search for in the back-end system so that you're always looking for a standard formatted date rather than having to guess which type of format that particular vendor listed it in. On PO here, you're going to notice some blanks. And it's just because, you know, the PO number is not available in all the documents we process. So, of course, they're going to be blank, and that's okay. PO number is not a required field for us. And then, of course, we've got total here. So now that we have all that data, everything's good to go, we can move into the next step. The rest of this is pretty much automated. It's going to create text searchable PDFs for us. This is going to shrink the PDF size a little bit. That way, if they're coming in full color or they're just large PDF documents, this will shrink their size. Now that we've done the OCR extraction, we don't need that super high quality. That's fully customizable, so you can do whatever you need there. It's also making text searchable, so once you do find the PDF based on invoice number, date total, whatever data you're extracting, you can then go back into it and do more searching or copying and pasting data out of it, whatever it is you need to do. The next step that it moved to, which you're looking at right now, is where it's actually uploading those documents to our IView Web Platform. That's an IBM native solution. It runs and operates on your IBM, and it provides a web browser interface where users can search on those values we extracted, invoice number, date, total, etc., and then show those documents and retrieve them. You can also do document associations. If you scan in a check later or associated, supplemental documentation or invoices or whatever it is that they all belong together, you can associate, attach those, so that if you find one of them, you'll see the associated documents along with them. So now what I'm going to do is fire up our IView thing here, and I'm going to log out just kind of so you can see what's going on. So I go to the web browser here, I go to the IView front end, and then I have to log in. So once I'm logged in, I have the ability to look at different archives. So each of these archives is typically going to be different form types you're working with. So in this case, I've got this capture invoice one, just the demo on today's presentation. But you may have one for separate invoices if you have different works. You have bill of ladings. You have custom forms. Whatever it is you're scanning, you're going to be able to have an archive for those. We go into the search here. We're presented with some easy-to-use fields. We can type in specific vendor names we're looking for, specific invoice numbers, specific date ranges we're searching, PO numbers. You can even search on total. All of this is customizable, what you want to search on. I'll just show you searching on everything so you can kind of see everything we did here. So you'll see that, here's a Mail Inc. invoice, here's the PO number, the total amount, the invoice number. We can click on that and we can see the PDF of it. At this point, we could save it out, we could print it, you can do whatever you want from here. If we were to do a specific search, so, let's go in here, let's search for, this particular PO number, or sorry, invoice number. So if I search for a specific one, it'll only show you those results. This is all customizable, what information you see here, how the file is named and how it's displayed here. I'm naming them off the invoice number, but you can, combine them and you can name them on multiple factors. So you have lots of options with that. So from that point, let me just kind of show you again, really quick, what this process looks like after you've classified things. So I'm going to select another batch of images here. All of these, now that I've run the classification and I've trained the system, should already be classified. And then what I'm going to do is add a few extra samples in here that are new in this batch, just so you can kind of see the system actually do its job. And we'll go back to the classification again. The system is going back in, it's OCRing, it's classifying, it's looking for those key values, those identifiers that we defined when we were running through the training process of the system. And then assuming there's any exceptions, it'll show those to us and we can reclassify them. We can train the system to recognize them from that day forward. Here you'll notice everything passed now. So our Tidewater passes because we trained the system to recognize it both times that it found it. Any of the other ones, the VRS one we worked on, the Whitecap, all of those are reclassified. It already knows what those are because we trained the system. So from this point forward, it's always going to be able to find them. The two new ones I added at the end, it has never seen before. So those pop up with a flag here. And we go through the same process again of classifying. So I'll kind of do that really quick here for you one more time. So this is labor ready, invoice. Again, it's another invoice here. We're going to look for labor ready Southwest. I'm just looking for something else. I'll grab like the web address. I was looking for a phone number. I don't see one off the top of my head. It's probably on here, and I'm just not seeing it right now. But so I would look for the company's name and their web address in there. So once I have that, we go over to zone profiles, and we start moving things around here. So this is invoice date. Make this a little bit larger. Double click. Move this over to where I can find the date. Resize this a little bit. Save it. Move this over to invoice number. Double click. Found it again. Move this over here. Resize that. Save it. PO number. It's probably on here somewhere, and I'm just not seeing it. Just for demo purposes, I'm going to do a count here. I am not seeing the PO number. It might be this billing number here. I'll just do a count, though. So because I'm doing a count, it's not going to find that. So I'm going to do a custom one. We'll just go like this. We're going to tell it to look for a count instead. Going to locate that, no problem. Resize this zone over here. Save that, and then we'll get total amount due. So we'll go over to amount due. It should find that, no problem. Do a locate, found it, and then we're going to tell it to look below here and save. We've now done this one, and that's really the process. I could go through. I'm not going to, take everybody's time up today to do all of them and keep moving and re-show the process again. But we've now reclassified labor ready, so we're good to go on that one from this day forward. We train the system to recognize it. So at that point, I think I'll conclude this pretty basic overview of how you can utilize site capture to not only classify, recognize your invoices and your purchase orders, or really any type of documents you want to process, but you can also very easily train the system to automatically recognize those from that day forward, extract the data, and then when you see those again, when those new invoices come in from those same classified customers or sources, you won't have to go back in and do any work. And the system will automatically know what it is. It'll automatically know where to extract the data from, and it'll just pass through all the way to your document repository, whether it's iView for your IBMI or SharePoint if you're using that, or any other products. We have tons of different ways of connecting to other systems if you have a specific preference or something already in place. So with that note, I'd like to open it up for some questions. I think Orlando's been monitoring
we
those
do, Chris.
for us.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we've actually had some questions throughout your presentation today from a couple of people, actually. Let me just hit you up with the first one, which is not too bad. It's an easy one. What type of forms can we use? Can we use more than one type of form? How many? What are all the different forms that we can use with this product?
That's a great question. So the different types of forms we can use. Honestly, the way that this system is designed, you can scan any type of documents, whether it's invoices, purchase orders. You can scan mortgage files. You can scan bank records, bill of lading, personal HR type processing of HR files. Honestly, it doesn't matter. As long as there's recognizable, unique text on the documents, if you're doing custom forms and there's a form ID at the bottom or the top or some unique form ID somewhere in the form or multiple different points of data to look for, as long as you can identify unique information on that document, the system can recognize it, classify it, and then the information you extract is completely up to you. I mean, right in this demo, we've extracted 4 data points for invoices. They're pretty much the common ones. But if you're doing custom forms that have 40, 50, 100 different bits of information you want to extract, if you're doing the medical field, for example, with like HCFAs and other types of documents that have tons of fields with procedures and patient information and hospital information and billing information, you can extract all of that. And the system will recognize documents, know exactly where to find that information. It has built-in tolerance for, forms resizing and moving a little bit, and they get scanned a little bit crooked. All of that is built into the system.
Okay, good. Then I'm gonna I have another question here. I know we're running tight on time, but there's a couple of questions. I'm gonna combine these two together. What type of scanners does this software support? And does it have to be scanned? Does these documents have to be scanned, or can they come from email attachments?
Well, another good question. So we support, if you're doing direct scanning, if you're connecting a scanner directly to the software and running it, it's hooked up right to your machine. Pretty much any device that's supported in Windows, if it displays in there, is supported. We support, Kofax's VRS stuff. We support the ISIS. We support the Twain. So you have lots of options there. It's pretty universal. As far as other supporting things, they can come in through emails. If you have Exchange, we can get those attachments and process those. If they come in through other email services, we can get those as well. There's different methods of doing that. If you have network scanners, a scanner that's sitting in the break room or in the hallway or, in the closet somewhere, and that scans to a network folder, we can, of course, auto-process those for you. And then fax servers, we've got some direct connections to like WriteFax and a couple others, or most fax servers, when faxes come in, they have systems automatically built into them that will save those faxes as a digital image to like a folder, which we can then process as well.
Good, good. And also, what are the system requirements for the capture product and that you have?
As far as system requirements go, they're pretty slim. The capture tool you're looking at here on the screen, the SciCapture, requires pretty up-to-date versions of Windows. I believe it works on Vista 7, 8, and 10. I'm currently running on Windows 8. It also runs on Windows 10 and, of course, 7. It needs, the standard, we have it on our website, but like about 2 gigs of RAM is the minimum, and, a 2-core processor, stuff like that. The faster your computer is, the faster it's going to run as far as OCR processing goes. As a side note, you can build this out so that you can have the product you're seeing here on the screen installed on local machines or desktops so people do scanning. And then you can have the server, an installation on a server that's got more robust hardware that actually does the OCR processing for you. So if you have, lower-end desktop machines and the OCRing is pretty slow because you don't have the horsepower for it, you can definitely offload that to a server architecture where the server runs, multi-threaded, multi-processes to make that much faster for you.
All right, good. And I know for the IBMI is pretty much will run down to V5R4 and up, and of course those requirements are pretty low as well on the 400. All right, well that's kind of the end of the questions there. I'd like to thank everyone that attended today's webinar for your time commitment. I know this is always hard to get away. And this course is being recorded, so we will broadcast this. We'll put this out there for replay. If you do have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to contact us at 949-709-5838 or visit us at informeddecisions.com or send your emails to info@informeddecisions.com. Again, Chris, thank you very much for your presentation. That was great. And everyone attending, thank you for your time and commitment to this time to stay around and listen to the whole webinar. We have had quite a bit of people on here today. All right, thank you everyone. And again, if you have any questions, let us know. Thank you very much from behalf of Informed Decisions.